Katie.
Milo.
You're offensive.
Oh, how rude.
No, but you are considered hugely offensive in Britain.
Yes. Yes.
Why?
I think I'm considered offensive because if I think something and I feel something, then I will say it. And I'm not really bothered.
Sort of like it just builds up.
And it comes out. And it doesn't really matter to me if what I say then is offensive to you. That's your choice. I don't really give offence. You choose to take it. You make better choices. So the onus is on you to improve yourself and find me less offensive because it's unlikely that I'm going to stop.
I love you so much. So, for instance, you did what is, I'm not just flattering you to say this, my favourite media stunt of the last decade, which is you got fat and then got thin again, just to demonstrate
that fat people are lazy and
fat
disgusting.
people are lazy and disgusting, and it's all your fault.
Yes.
And if you want to, you can choose to be thin.
Correct. So people always say, "Oh, you're so lucky to be skinny," or huge heifers would say, "Oh, well." I don't know if they talk like that.
No, they do, because it's something to do with the vocal cords. When there's always a weight around.
Like 8 chins.
No, they do. When you get fat and you have that waddle,
it's all
they call
on
it
there.
waddle.
Yeah.
And you have like there's, I don't know, it's pressure on the vocal cords, but they do. They have a sort of guttural, phlegmy. It's a reverberative effect to their voice.
It runs in my family. Oh, my mother was big. Yeah, okay. Boogaloo. You didn't need to be.
She hasn't passed on fat genes. She's passed on indolence.
Yes.
She's passed on laziness.
They use their surname and they go, "Oh, us, Camerons, we were all big. We're a big family." As if it's some sort of genetic inheritance.
Are all big girls.
And then they'll say, "You're so lucky to be slim." So I thought, right, okay, hold on. I will put on. What was it? So 4 stone. So in your money, kind of like £50 to prove
it's a lot.
that if I sit on my ass and I shove the fridge in my face, I can be as fat as you guys. And I was. I thought I would have like 40 pounds on these, and I was like, yes, I'm going to have these huge.
It's not
boobs.
how weight goes on, is it?
No, it went on here with this massive gunt.
Yeah, it's this gentle.
Americans won't understand gunt actually. So for gunt, think cankle, which is a cross between your calf and your ankle.
Oh, I know what a cankle is.
So
I know what a cankle is from the last election.
A gunt is in this department between your...
Yeah, thanks. Good, lovely.
Gut and your...
Yeah,
otherwise...
Good. So you had a gunt.
Places you've never been.
You had... Oh, not never. Just not for some time.
Seldom.
And never with any pleasure.
So I put on 4 stone, 3 months on, 3 months off to say, listen, you've got no excuse. If you want to be slim, get slim. You can just walk.
It can be hard work, but it can be hard work. But it's mostly diets, mostly discipline.
But also, let's not celebrate being fat either. This idea that being fat is the new marvelous thing. Be proud of your bodies. I'm
body positivity.
Body positivity. I'm beautiful on the inside and out. No, you're not.
No.
On the inside, it's a whole world of yellow. And it's cutting out, sweetie.
And this is why. Joking aside, although I suspect in the course of this interview we will be quite unable to put joking aside, this is why I liked it so much, because it wasn't just an extraordinary demonstration. It was you put your money where your mouth was, which was wonderful to see, and so few people bother to do so. But in addition to that, you were drawing attention to something pernicious, dangerous. Actually, it's very destructive, and it is this idea that we should congratulate people for poor life choices, to make them feel better, because the primary purpose of public life and of education and of advertising is self-esteem rather than self-improvement.
Absolutely.
And this is that JCPenney is putting these videos out with fat women encouraging their own customers to die sooner. And that's not funny. It's
not funny. And if you come from a country where you have a nationalised health system, so a health system that for all the stupid people...
I just about remember how bad it was.
I remember. A dark place that you left behind. Thank you very much for leaving me there, Milo.
I'm going back for Thanksgiving.
Oh, Joe, how very generous of you to come back for a couple of days.
To come back for an American holiday.
Yes, you'll waft in your bloody Gucci loafers. Imagine you're the bloody second coming, and then off you toddle.
These are,
you abandoned me in Britain, Milo. We should pick up on that later. My thought is, if you have a nationalised healthcare system where people perceive that treatment, important, is free at the point of use, but for them that means free because they're not that smart, and therefore they say, well, if I have a stomach stapling on the NHS,
Yeah.
which means on me,
Yes,
of course, because
yes.
I pay the taxes.
Well, in this country, 50% of people don't pay tax at all. I'm guessing in Britain it's something
So,
similar.
Yeah, so they say, well, if I have a stomach stapling operation, that will save money for the NHS in the long run because I won't be diabetic. And it's like, no, it's the wrong side of the balance sheet.
Just like
it will reduce more costs, but it doesn't create a saving.
Yes, no, it's like I had a rough childhood, but it didn't make me walk through life with a packet of crisps in one hand and an ice cream scoop in the other because, I decided not to be a victim, not to give in to it, and not to make my traumas other people's burden.
Yeah.
And
you always wonder, people, so you see these programs about it's sort of welfare porn. So it's like, oh, we're the poorest of the poor. And we're so fat. And it's because cheap food makes you fatter. It's like, no, just eat less of all of it.
Just eat less and buy some celery.
Yes, exactly. But they're always like, we can barely afford to eat. I go without so that my children can eat. And you look at her and she's like a 20-ton Tessa.
You haven't gone without anything.
You have not
There is nothing you've been without.
You've eaten your own TV, Tessa. Wind it in.
The reason you're so miserable, the things you don't have in life, you've eaten them all.
Yes, exactly. So that's it. Yes, I do have a beef.
You keep eyeing up. One day you burp and tyres come out. No,
So one good thing is it does act as a sort of cleansing of the ways for me. So if I bump into fat people in the street, they see me coming, they know that I can't stand fat people, and there's a parting of the ways.
See, I like this.
It's a bit like
I've
Moses.
done something similar with feminism.
So pussy hats part at the way.
No, exactly. Well,
Quite an expression.
Nice of you to say. But, no, but it's like a filter.
Yeah.
You've applied a filter, like a search criterion to your life.
I've googled fat out of my life.
Filtered it out. Just entered a filter, and now people it must be lovely.
Short people, ginger people, filtering my life as I go.
I feel like I'm talking to myself.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. An older, more haggard version of yourself.
I love this false modesty you have too. I mean, you show up with the most expensive haircut I've ever seen, this beautiful clothes, wonderful things like, oh, I'm so haggard, give me a break, sister. My God. Anyway. Come over to America for Restoration Weekend, and you're probably experiencing slack-jawed horror from your new American friends at just how awful this is, the state of free speech is in Britain. The ability to say things like you just did about fat people, to crack jokes about. In my view, fat people and gingers are the two classes that we must at all costs protect against political correctness. It must be okay to mock fatties and gingers until the end of human civilization, until the last person gets zapped by the alien space ray. It has to be okay to mock fatties and gingers.
Because it's a truth. So it's an unspoken truth. So therefore, it's my obligation and my duty to speak it.
Yes.
Yes, Milo. But ginger
what are you
babies,
doing in England?
Ginger babies, we all know as mums, and you'll identify with this as a mother, that nobody wants a ginger baby. Nobody wants one. And when my last baby came out, I looked down because Mark has some ginger elements in his beard. And I always say to girls...
Right. You're worried about you might have the recessive gene and not know it.
Yeah, and the thing is with Mark, he's brown haired, but his beard... Some traces of ginger.
No, that's just the sun. Because even I have that. No, even I get it.
No, Milo, there's no ginger in you, darling. You're too fabulous.
There's never been any ginger in me. I can
So, Mark had ginger beard.
Fact.
I'm telling you.
There
so
no
I was like, right.
Are there ginger black? No.
No, there's no ginger. Just because black people are fabulous, so they're not ginger. No ginger. So when Max came out, and then I saw him, there was some sort of blood on his head. Don't faint, it's okay. And I was like, oh my God, he's redhead. I was like, give that baby away.
Because it's iron rich, so it looks a little gingery,
It's like yeah, so it's like ginger babies, like regular babies, but so much harder to love.
Oh, yeah.
Change that baby. Exchange me a baby.
Give me
I need a pretty child.
Baby.
Yes.
Are you the only woman in British public life who's prepared to accept that she was, for at least a moment, horrified by her own child's ugliness?
Oh, I'm okay with it. Because I know that other mums have always said, the only thing I don't want... People say, well, I'm hoping it's not disabled. I'm hoping it's not Downs.
But you can deal with that because you get sympathy for that
stuff. But they
stuff,
say, I really hope it's not ginger. Because that's like the worst of all. And I'm totally with that. Like, nobody
Down
wants a ginger
syndrome
baby.
kids are very loving.
But
they're affectionate.
Yes, ginger kids, just
ginger kids
bitter,
are just
ugly.
End up jihadis.
Can you dress them in pink?
No.
No, what colour can you put on a ginger baby? There's nothing.
On a ginger person?
Only a bag on its head. That's all you can do.
The only thing they look good in is black plastic.
And did you know they shut down the only sperm bank it's the biggest sperm bank in the world. I don't know if you've facilitated any of it.
No.
Oh,
I don't need the money.
Spread your beauty. Spread your beauty. It's your mission. Get in those sperm banks, Milo. It would be sort of a gift.
I should
as gift to the nation.
Spunking far and wide.
Spunk far and wide, darling.
Okay, fine.
So in Norway,
I'll stop donating.
They've started rejecting. They reject
Scrape the
gingers.
walls.
You cannot donate if you're a ginger because there's no demand for the sperm. You are. Darwin had something. He had something.
You know about ginger jihadis, don't you?
I do.
You do, and this is something that the intelligence services. We're wandering way off topic, but this is my
There
favorite.
are no
This is my favorite subject.
With me, darling,
this
there's
is
no
my
topics.
favorite subject. You know that the intelligence services, the police, and all the rest of it will never admit this, but they know privately. If you have a red-headed kid, and he comes home one day and he's got new friends called Ahmed and Mohammed, it's time to Mohammed. It's time. It's like a throat disease, isn't it? It's time to start worrying.
Inshallah.
I don't think they call it. It's time to start worrying because they are vastly disproportionately more likely to become jihadis.
Well, if you're a ginger, you're ostracised, and as soon as you're ostracised, you're an easy target for kind of making into some form of jihadi. I reckon they're quite crap jihadis, though.
Yeah, you
Because
get
they
the
still look a
impression
bit rubbish, even when they're dressed up in the whole ISIS
they're
garb.
still ginger.
Even in a suicide jacket, they look shit.
Even
in a
ISIS
suicide
doesn't
jacket.
really want them.
This
so
is the thing about
it's like
ginger
puts them on the
people.
front lines. You
Ginger
know,
people
this
don't
is
even
why,
do suicide jackets well. You know.
This is
my
this
point
is
about
why
no
ISIS
pink.
wants them because it wants the ground truth. There's that great scene in the South Park movie where the frontline troops and you're like, that's awkward.
Wipe them out.
For ISIS and Al Qaeda, it's just throw the gingers over the wall. But this may be why you have all these Jihad Jenny and Samantha Luthwaite,
Who the hell's that?
the Black Widow.
Oh,
who
yes,
is
yes.
ginger hair. All these women are ginger hair. They all go over, get Somali boyfriends. I mean, that I can understand. And then they just they become evil criminal masterminds. There's a network. There's a network of ginger women secretly running ISIS. If you needed any more reason
And then
to hate them.
sometimes magazines do, beautiful. They do these sort of campaigns like with fat people where they do pictures of fat people looking good,
Yes.
which we all know it takes
Is
a lot of arranging in appropriate
and
ways.
Photoshop, all of the rest of it.
Just get the one good shot. Yeah, that.
And
they
these
do that with
people
ginger
aren't really
too.
fat to begin with. In some cases, they'll kind of like round it out a little bit. They just use regular models, just puff them out a little bit because fat people just don't photograph.
So on the jihadi front, I was
Like
last
vampires,
week.
you just take the. This is if God were real, we'd live in a world where cameras just didn't pick them up. It'd be like vampires. You take a picture and all you'd see is the wall.
I was supposed to be beheaded, and then you've gone. There is no hope for us. There is no hope for us.
All right, so we've done our two favourite subjects.
Yes, now we're doing jihadis. I'm still on jihadis.
No. We're going to move on. This is the kind of thing for which you get in trouble in Britain, and the kind of conversation you're only allowed to have on television for about 60 seconds before they cut you off and start saying how offensive and unnecessary and like, oh, well...
And those are not the views of the programme.
Yeah, those are not the views of Good Morning Britain or whatever it is.
The
guy's like, shut her up, we're going to get taken off the air, we're going to get so many complaints. These are the sorts of conversations that normal people everywhere across the Western world have. Not obviously in as good outfits or with such good hair
as
or
Romanian hookers. No one does this stuff.
Flatter yourself, Ukrainian. They're more expensive. They're far. No. I'm going to get in trouble with my Russian friends. But Ukrainian prostitutes are very, very much more desirable and expensive.
So
you could be a Ukrainian prostitute. No, what I wanted to ask you about.
Oh, that was smoothly done.
We need that.
We need to coordinate that better. So
No, it's fine.
But it means I could get one in while you're doing, you see.
Well, you should have.
Yeah.
Go. What we need to do, I don't plan these things ahead of time, I just needed a drink. What we need to do is talk about the extraordinary fight that you have to speak your mind on national television in the UK. Now, in the US, it's a sort of different set of problems. There are appropriateness problems. There are sort of propriety. But in the UK, there's actually a legal element to this. And for expressing feisty, provocative, funny, entertaining points of view, views which, importantly, and this is critical, are shared by millions of Brits. For expressing those points of view, you've attracted the attention not just of columnists from the left or the censorious forces of corporate whatever, but from the law, from the police.
Yes, the actual police.
The actual real police.
The actual boys in blue.
This is going to blow Americans' minds. This is going to they're going to not understand this at all. But this is a critical thing to understand the difference really in the free speech arguments between this country and Britain, and it is that the state can, at the barrel of a gun, require that you stop upsetting people and hurting their feelings. Or at least intimidate you into not speaking your mind as forcefully under the threat of arrest or imprisonment. So talk to us about what's the most unobjectionable thing you said that nonetheless attracted the attention of law enforcement?
So I'd say, I mean, there's a number of candidates for this award.
Well, I've been following you for years, and I think they're all ridiculous.
Yes, of course.
But what's the most commonplace opinion that should never have been controversial?
Yes, I think, I think the one that kind of had the biggest reaction and that I don't see the need for, I was talking about migrants crossing the Med. And in the column that I wrote, and bear in mind I was a columnist for a national newspaper, so I was a paid, retained columnist for a national newspaper, 500 words column, and I wrote about the fact that these migrants, no matter what, they make it across the Med. You know, given all that's gone on, given they've been travelling for weeks without food, given...
Indestructible,
they're on these boats, there's nothing that will do them down.
I can't imagine a Sky News anchor or a Guardian columnist surviving at sea for as long as these
I can't imagine them surviving getting in the damn, dinghy. Oh my God, it's very chilly. I've got a wetsuit. So they get in. So when you're at school, the thing you learn is that cockroaches are the only thing that will survive the nuclear holocaust. Right? Yeah. We all know that. You've just gone for it yourself, whether it's true or not.
It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor.
Yes, it's a metaphor, and maybe whether it's true or not, one day we'll never know, will we? Because we won't survive, and those bloody things will.
We don't know if the Muslims will.
So, correct. But my kind of analogy was, these guys, they are enduring. They are like cockroaches. Now, this word, cockroach, became the most contentious word ever used in a national newspaper. Let's bear in mind that has to get through a backbench,
many
which people
layers
checking,
of
legal
and
editor, and then as a result,
and the problem presumably was that you were comparing them to parasites, to insects, to swarming, whatever.
I was using it in the context of they are enduring. But
you're a writer. You're aware of the other connotations that come with it.
You layer on.
My point is, it shouldn't fucking matter.
It shouldn't matter. And if
you should
want
be able to say whatever the hell you want.
Rwandan genocide, that's your issue. I didn't layer that on. You layered that on.
Yeah, there wasn't. I mean, it wasn't in my head.
It wasn't, but it is now.
Very often when someone will criticise or complain about something I've said, they'll come up with a much more offensive interpretation than the one I originally intended.
That was precisely what I felt about this.
I feel offended. I do. And I feel hurt that I didn't come up with it.
I was like, Rwandan genocide? What an idea.
If only
I'd got there first. If only my geography and my history was better.
If only I had as dark a mind as you. It's like I've got UC Berkeley, when they wanted to cancel my talk the first time around, a UC Berkeley college professor, and this is a related, not quite the same thing, but University College professor said, he's planning to out undocumented students. And I wasn't, but what an idea.
Well done, good idea.
They're here illegally. They shouldn't be here.
Do you love that word, undocumented, as well?
Undocumented.
Isn't that just like,
undocumented. And they're not, they shouldn't be here. They have no right to be here. Why shouldn't I be able to do so?
I'm undocumented. No, sorry, you're illegal. Yeah. Like, I'm fat, I'm plus size. No, sorry, you're fat.
Not plus size.
Let's strip back these words. So anyway, I ended up in a cell with two police officers.
You were in a cell?
Yeah, with a tape recorder. It was back in the old days where you had to press play and
record at the same time.
Like that. And I was like, have I just gone back to Dickensian England?
You've gone to the British police.
Yes, so
the answer is yes. They're only a few years ahead of Sherlock Holmes.
So they were there in the cell with their two police officers, and I had to go in.
Won't know what a cassette tape is.
No, so this old way of kind of recording, isn't it? That's all you can say. People used to walk around with them on their hips.
I wouldn't know. I barely remember myself.
That is correct, but I'm so old and haggard I can. So these two police officers, and I had to do an interview under caution with the Metropolitan Police. So that's like NYPD plus for us, right?
Yeah.
Major Crime and Homicide Command. That was so the
major
people
crime
and homicide command. So people that do mass murderers.
And you were in there with the mass murder detectives.
Yes,
because you had
I
used
wrote
the
the
word cockroach
in a column that had gone through legal editors.
that an established national newspaper had published.
Yes, and then
And you were hauled in.
and after my interview with him, which
jealous.
I kind of enjoyed.
I hate you.
I
I'm
know.
going to stab you in the
and
throat.
I had a 4-page speech, which I got to read, which I was like, it was very, very exciting for me. And the barrister that I went in with, who's frightfully, he appears like he's really down with the people, so people underestimate him. He's very wily. Afterwards, he said it's the first time. He said it's the first time he's seen 2 police officers look more frightened than the person that they were interviewing. So I really liked my moment.
Did you dress like this?
Yes, and I milked it. I milked that moment.
I'm here
I
to
am.
stand for free speech.
I had a full Maggie Thatcher moment post IRA. I went big. And I loved it. If I could have had cameras in that fucking police station, I would have.
God,
so I did that.
Can I buy the movie rights to this? Because I just, when eventually they slam you into prison, when you're in the clink, I want the movie rights to the free speech martyr of Britain.
I'm going to service every mail I can. So after that,
do you understand how popular you'd be in prison? No, I don't mean that.
Do you mean sexually?
No.
Sexually.
Well, possibly, but
I think I'd be sexually fabulous.
possibly, but
I would earn my keep. I'd be on my knees.
I just mean
more
I think
often
that
than my aged gran.
Well, I used to have the same thing, but I wanted to go to prison in the US. It was always my dream to fuck someone on death row. Because it's so hot. It's so hot.
Is that hot? Oh yeah.
I just want someone to Chris Brown me, you know? That's what
I've
always wanted.
Why is it hot to do someone on Chris
Because they've murdered someone with their own hands.
Oh, a murderer.
It's so hot.
That's hot. Is it hot that they're dying as well? Oh no, that's not so hot.
Yeah, it is, because you're the last person that'll ever get it. And you know, the last time they had their hands on someone's throat, that person ended up dead.
But then that might be you. They'd be like that spider that eats its own.
That's what's exciting about it. It's
the female spider.
Yeah. That's what's exciting.
Anyhow, so back to the police station.
Yes.
And then, so we had my fabulousness speech that I was loving with sequins.
Yeah.
And then they said, well...
Did you actually wear sequins?
I did. They said, yes, and my tranny heels. I went full out. And then they said, well, we will have to refer you to the Crown Prosecution Service. So, as in, whatever you said here matters not, because we're referring you anyway, because the people that made the complaint were the Society for Black Lawyers. And we can't be seen to be not hearing them seriously.
And this is an example of not just the terrible attitudes to free speech, the lack of a First Amendment in the UK, but also the first bubbling up of identity politics, that side of the pond.
Yes.
It's it's a parallel justice system for people who are able to describe themselves as victims of something.
And this was a few years ago, but the fact that there is a Society for Black Lawyers...
Because people think of identity politics as American, but it isn't really.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And same with, like, if you're from the Muslim Council of Britain, you have an ability to lobby in a way that other people can't
to
lobby.
command press, to all the rest of the police are terrified of being...
That happens. But then also, I guess, my Twitter feed, the online policing of my Twitter feed is hilarious. So I wrote...
Do you get warnings from the verified police services? Because like Glasgow police will tweet about, don't be offensive on the internet because we're watching.
Well, they're one of the ones, actually. It's the Scottish. So there was a Scottish nurse. And she went over because she was so, saving the planet. Saving the planet. Every moment she was awake, saving the planet.
Spiky-haired Caledonian lesbian activists.
Absolutely, definitely a lesbian, but in a very bitter way. Sort of
aren't they
vaginally secreting sulfuric acid.
Are there unbitter lesbians?
Well, she was particularly bitter. She went over to cure the world of Ebola because
so
she's
bitter
so noble.
You could almost smell it.
Herrings. And she came back to the UK and she was carrying a bit of Ebola.
A bit of a boner?
Yeah. No, not a bit of a boner. A bit of Ebola.
Oh, Ebola.
And that's quite different.
Both liquefy your insides.
We can do the biology on that.
You missed that one.
No, I didn't miss it. It just was a bit shit. But okay. But Ebola and boner, moving along. She was coming back. She
both mess up your insides. Is that better?
She's a lesbian. She can't have a boner. She came back and she was carrying a bit of Ebola.
Yes, the liquefying.
Yes, the one that liquefies you from the inside. We were at customs actually, just going into Australia. And my daughter, who's very like me, Poppy. Yeah. Someone sneezed. It was a black guy 3 roads along in the customs. He sneezed and Poppy went Ebola. And I was like, Poppy, will you shut up? Anyway, back to the story. Ebola.
She's going to have such a terrible life.
No, she's fabulous. And she's quite like you. And I'm hoping also my son's gay. We'll talk about that later.
No.
Oh,
okay, well, no, I'm taking notes of that. Don't wish your son is gay.
I do wish.
Don't.
Let's go back to Ebola nurse. Back to Ebola nurse.
I liked you so much before you said that.
Okay, fine. I don't need your love. I do.
I know.
You know.
I know. It's okay.
I don't mean that. So she came back to the UK. She's feeling a bit hot and sweaty. Realised she had a temperature of 455 and was carrying Ebola, but thought, no, I'll carry along, so I'd quite like to get home.
Yeah, just
nice
keep going. Yeah,
so she brought Ebola back to the UK.
Yes.
I called her an Ebola bomb. And
perfectly reasonable.
On Twitter. And
perfectly
I was like,
reasonable.
If any more sweaty jocks or socks, whatever I called them, want to be an Ebola
Ebola
bomb, please do stay in the African country to whence you went.
Yeah.
That, I was in Australia for travel. The police rang in the middle of the night and said, we are going to repatriate you to the UK for this tweet.
They brought you home from Australia because you tweeted about someone else's wrongdoing.
Yeah, because she came back with Ebola and she didn't get the temperature measured.
Do you think that they were most upset about that, or do you think they were upset about sweaty jocks?
They didn't like sweaty jocks.
I think
is it socks or jocks? I muddled the two, and one of them is racist. Is sweaty socks or jocks racist?
Well, sweaty jocks refers to Scottish people.
Right, and I think I might have called them sweaty socks, and that was racist.
No,
there was
it's
a definite
not racist.
S or J issue. And they rang me in the middle of the night.
Did you? Well, maybe you meant to say sweaty jocks.
I did.
Jocks being jock straps, but also Scottish people.
Yes,
but you
and
said
sweaty
socks,
which became racist.
Why?
They felt it was racist.
Why?
And because 15 different Scottish police forces had received reports that it was offensive.
Because the definition of racism now is that someone somewhere said, it really hurt my feelings.
So 1 a.m. in Australia, because obviously a 12 hours difference, I had a phone call saying, we're repatriating you because you called us sweaty socks. I was like, hold on, I got to get my head around this. Let me wake up a little bit. No, it's still not making sense.
No.
It's like that.
No, I've been up for an hour.
Yeah.
I've had a coffee and a croissant.
And I still can't get my
croissant. And
I still can't make this.
No, it's still fucking retarded.
And it was like any which way. I'll try and rationally think about it. I'll write a note to myself. Does it make sense now?
No, it's still stupid.
So
what upsets me the most about this, and it's the reason I don't go home very often because I think I'm illegal in my own home country.
Where's home?
Well, London now, but I grew up in Kent, of course.
Is home there still? No.
Well, I don't have a home
here.
there anymore. Home is in Miami now. But I mean, I don't go to England very much anymore
I
because
know.
I feel like I'd be illegal there. I mean, there's some of the stuff I've said about the religion of peace. I would be in jail.
We all want
I would
you
be
there.
in jail. No, but I would be in jail. Well, I might tour there next year. But the thing that annoys me most about the way that you're treated is that most of what you say, if not everything that you say, is true. I mean, you say it in an amusing and provocative way, but there's a tweet you sent. No.
When people,
this is the moment of idiot. When they refer to their notes.
I know, with glasses like this.
Idiot.
Okay, go on.
I'm looking over my spectacles at you, brandishing my notes.
You are, it's quite hot.
So this is a Channel 4 moment, isn't it? So Kathy Newman.
Kathy Newman, she's the worst.
So you sent a tweet.
Did I, Kathy?
No.
Have you ever had sex, Kathy?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Where did you get that perm, Kathy? That's what I want to ask her.
I want to ask her.
What's with the hair?
Where's the interdimensional portal that you're using to take you to some hideous hell dimension where you can get a perm like that still
who
in
does
2017?
Kathy Newman's hair? And also, if you've got exceptionally small boobs, I should know, you don't wear tops that show them off, Kathy Newman. Like, how did she get on Channel 4
Nobody knows
News?
who she is.
Well, crap hair. Right, okay, paint yourselves a picture. Crap hair, small tits,
you know
annoying.
what she's Debbie Wasserman-Schultz on TV.
Right. So
That's
that
what she
woman.
is.
Yeah.
Apparently this is a woman who should host the
She needs
evening
your
news.
stylist, darling.
Everybody needs my stylist.
Harvey greeted me. He held me down on the bed. He then orally forced himself on me.
Harvey walked in, took his pants down, exited on the floor.
Actor Kevin Spacey has sexually assaulted my son.
Louis C.K. approached her when she was working on a TV pilot. He said, "Can I masturbate in front of you?"
Stuck his hand inside my
Sylvester
son's
Stallone
pants.
is facing some serious allegations
Six
that
women
he
have
sexually
come forward
assaulted a teenager.
accusing Brett Ratner of
followed me
sexual
to my car.
harassment. and
Kevin
assault.
Spacey is facing
started to
20
cry.
new allegations.
My name is Milo Yiannopoulos. I'm a New York Times best-selling author and an award-winning journalist. I'm also a victim of child sexual abuse, and in the 2000s I lived in Beverly Hills, where I saw things that made me want to move out of Hollywood really very quickly. In my new book, Despicable, I'm not just lifting the lid on what I saw, but I'm also telling the stories of friends of mine who work in the entertainment and music business. People who don't want to go to the mainstream media or to left-wing journalists because they felt so consistently vilified and ostracized for their political views. These people are ready to name names. In Despicable, I explain how Hollywood and the Democrat Party exist in intricate symbiosis, keeping each other protected and powerful. But I also explain how Hollywood's recent string of commercial failures and creative disasters stem from the same cancerous center as its hypocrisy and finger-wagging. The collapse in Hollywood's moral foundation has led us to a place that tells the rest of us how to live while turning a blind eye to the most appalling abuses on its own doorstep. Whether this ossified and self-regarding industry can find a way out of the crisis it created depends on whether Hollywood can discover an appreciation for the only kind of diversity that actually matters: diversity of thought and opinion. Despicable will be published next year, but you can pre-order signed first editions at dangerous.com today.
So this tweet, you said...
Oh, this is so This is quite hot, actually.
What? You like it?
Mastery.
Well, no, it's my
back to school days.
No, it's my cerebral look.
I like it. Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Explosion in France, shooting at a German hospital, knife attack in London, and Ramadan has not yet begun. Without food, these sods get nasty. Now, it's not even particularly offensive.
That
but it's
got me in a lot of
also
trouble.
absolutely true.
So true.
I mean, Ramadan rage is a well-understood, well-known. I mean, they don't call it Ramadan rage, of course we do, but it's
Ramadan
rage. That's what I call it.
Ramadan rage.
Ramadan rage. It's a well-known phenomenon in the Middle East. The Saudi police deploy quadruple, I can't remember even what the number is, vast numbers of police. Vast numbers of police during the holy month of Ramadan, as we're obliged to call it on television.
Is it holy month of Ramadan? Or is it just people that don't eat very much but still incredibly fat?
Yeah.
Explain that. How that does that? Ramadan ends and they're all fatter than they started.
Well, because it puts your body into starvation
No,
mode.
it's not. It's because they gorge like bloody bats.
No, they
in
do
the
every
middle of the night.
Every time the sun goes down, it starts
If the
with
Ramadan
dates.
plan was a diet, it would be bloody
dates
bankrupt.
and it ends with McDonald's.
Yeah, 1 a.m. Jesus, what are you doing? Ramadan.
They eat more than any other time.
What are you drinking? Oil. It's Ramadan. I've got to drink oil. It's 2 a.m. Jesus Christ, darling, have a diet.
No.
Just because you wear a burqa doesn't mean you can be fat.
Anyway.
Back. Yes, go.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah, remember that one for the next thing. Do people
in-
have fat eyeballs? Can you
What?
tell fat people by their eyeballs?
Well, you could probably tell from here.
Can you tell?
I don't know.
Do I look slim?
You don't look any slimmer or fatter.
Back to topic. And back we go.
All right. Before the
tweetage.
midnight
Oh, yes,
feast.
Ramadan.
Before the midnight.
What are you doing, Ramadan? Why are you so knackered? Oh, because I've been up all night shoving shit in my face.
I had 6 pints of Ben and Jerry's because
I can't eat for 12 hours.
I've inhaled a multi-pack. I've inhaled a multi-pack of Funyuns.
Chicken fillet? Yes,
Because
I'll
I'm not
have
allowed to
52.
eat for a few hours during the day while the sun's up.
No.
At a time
I
of
can't
year-
even drink water. No. I'm such a dedicated soldier for Allah. No. Yes.
Anyway, during the hours
Of non-eating.
of not eating,
which are few.
well, we know about hangriness as attractive thin people. We have gone through our fair share of being hangry. You know, you want to get into a particular dress for a particular awards show, whatever. You can have experiences of being hangry because you're in whatever.
Yeah.
So let's say
Hungry and angry.
5 p.m. You're coming.
hangry.
You're coming off your last night's binge.
Drinking oil.
Sugar crash. is setting in.
What have you been eating?
I could just
deep
hear
fried
I
dates.
could hear the producers. The sugar crash is setting in. Your carb crash, all this kind of stuff. 5 p.m.
I just confirmed our fat work.
You get. I'm just getting. Yep. We're done.
We're done. You're number 1 on the list, though I'm number 2, so you're going first.
I don't know about any other positions.
Fatwa fucking tastic.
Oh God. People get stroppy. Let's say when they haven't had lunch, people get stroppy. And it is well known in the Middle East, and even you may not know this, even in Manchester, down in is it Didsbury, where the big mosque is in Manchester.
Don't go there.
No, I've never been there. But
don't go to the dark side.
Well, except in bed.
Yes.
In Manchester, the police triple their patrols because they know that this is a time when shops get raided, crime happens, and all the rest of it. So you were alluding to something absolutely true.
Statistically,
completely true.
Correlation between violent acts and Ramadan.
By your usual standards, this tweet isn't particularly offensive.
Oh no!
I mean, it's nowhere near cockroach tier.
It's not.
No, I mean, I'll just read it again.
Or sweaty socks.
Explosion of sweaty socks. Well, we may have to edit out sweaty socks for our delicate American listeners.
Great.
But
we don't
explosion in France, shooting at a German hospital, knife attack in London.
In one day.
Could not be more dispassionate language. And Ramadan has not yet begun. Without food, these sods get nasty. Well, these sods, you could have been referring to anyone. But the point is, by your standards, this wasn't even that offensive.
No, but
I don't think it was
crazy.
This is something you could hear in any pub, any bar, any night of the week, anywhere in Britain.
But that had police officers at my door of my house telling me I needed to come in for interviews under question.
Have you ever taken any of this stuff down? Have you been forced to take it down?
No, didn't delete it.
You've always let this stuff
I've left it up.
How has Twitter not nuked you yet? So this is the curious Because in America, they're taking us out because they're looking at the politically effective...
that was a bad day for me.
Well, it was the beginning of the end.
We missed you on Twitter.
I know.
Yeah, we do.
It was the beginning of the end. And now Roger Stone and a bunch of others, and the press is trying to paint it like Twitter's crackdown on white supremacy. It isn't. It's effective conservatives. It's conservatives that actually could persuade and change people's minds.
But it is a crazy thing that I'm still there.
I don't understand. Maybe because you're British and that they're coming for you. They are coming for you.
I think it might be because I go with it in their faces. So I go, dear Jack.
Yeah.
Please do take my blue tick because frankly, I don't want it anymore, honey bun.
It's quite brazen.
It seems to make them want to leave it on.
That's a good strategy.
Either way,
I should have thought of that last year.
Police at my door for that tweet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's amazing. And now, one thing I've noticed is that the primary offenders, the primary antagonists against free speech in Europe, it's the government. Because we don't in our native land we don't have a First Amendment. There's no constitutional protection for your right to express yourself, to say, do, and be whatever you want. In France, it's even worse because it's a sort of this is historic actually. And it's a European instinct. Sort of, if it exists, there should be rules about it. If it exists, we should be telling you how it works, how many of them you're allowed to buy, and what language you're allowed to use about it. This is a distinctively French approach to the law and to language.
Yeah.
A very prescriptivist kind of way to live. Now, in Britain, we have a somewhat better history. The default is freedom, but then there are lots of rules laid on top for safety and public order.
Yeah.
And in many cases, etiquette and politeness, which in my view should not exist at all, because they create the absurdity, and this is the problem, of laws that can be enforced on somebody's entirely subjective and completely unfalsifiable internal say-so. In other words, you can tweet something and somebody can say, she hurt my feelings. And you have to waste your time at the police station.
Yes, and the new...
That's amazing.
They've kind of redefined it recently in terms of what is offence on Twitter.
Right.
And they've made it perceived. So that word perceived came in by the Crown Prosecution.
I don't even have to be offended.
You can perceive offence. Or even better than that, the next level is you can perceive that I've been offended and report it as hate police. And then there are entire units now of police that are dedicated to hate online. So rather than patrol the nasty streets, they can sit in the warm.
I've got a hunch that very few of the people who complain about your tweets about Muslims or immigration are Muslim or immigrants. I think it's white liberals stirring up trouble.
Yes, of course. And they're campaigning to get me silenced in the same way that you know.
And I think the problem is that this kind of open-ended invitation to abuse actually just opens this is thrown open the door to well-organized, well-funded political activism designed to abuse badly written law that rests on subjective interpretations and feelings. And feelings-based legislation is a total disaster.
And this last thing is all feelings.
Total disaster.
Makes it all about your feelings. If you feel or you perceive that you've been hurt, you report it.
She offended me is enough to haul somebody. I mean, you've not been convicted of anything, right?
No.
But you've had to go through how many encounters with the police?
4 direct encounters in stations, of course, and then they're tipping off the journalist before you get there. The police are
so
in
there's all
cohorts
the,
with them, so that's mass reporting.
That's quite fun.
Super fun and
Yeah,
super
no, so you don't mind that at all. Don't pretend that's a problem.
Police in my house.
Because we all know that it isn't.
I've had police in my house, and they fit up these intruder alerts because I was threatened with decapitation earlier this year, so they've just gone down now. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. So that. Yeah. All right. So
all my favorite
Pamela Galilee.
All my favorite people are at risk of assassination or decapitation.
Yeah, but it is always true that
I made a mistake of going after feminists first instead of Muslims. So the worst that can happen to me is they'll just throw a bag of cat piss at me. You know?
What's the worst feminists could do to someone?
They can suffocate me with a cardigan,
or
come at me with some knitting needles. They'll lurch at me with some knitting needles. Or worse than any of those things, far worse than death, they will put me on a saga cruise. They'll put me on a cruise. Was it Jane Mansfield?
Singing.
They'll put me on a saga cruise with late night cabaret entertainment. Late night in the cruise world being 6 p.m. after dinner.
The pussy marches were one of the best days on this planet, weren't they? The pussy marches. My vagina is made of steel. No, it isn't. It really
puts
isn't.
me in mind of what will happen when we inevitably end up in hell.
Yes.
But I believe in personal hell. I don't know how Catholic that is really, but that for me, hell is an eternal game of Scrabble with some stinking crypto dyke who's really good at triple word scores.
Yes. Stinking crypto dyke is a great thing. The other person that comes to get me quite often is Ofcom, which is like the regulator for kind of, if you're on radio, you broadcast.
Yes,
Ofcom
they
can
have
come and
the
get
ability to sanction the station that you're...
The radio station that you
you're
present
broadcasting for your newspaper.
So after the pussy marches, and I'd stood amongst them after the Trump was inaugurated, and they'd come to march because actually they'd booked their train fares and their plane fares because they were going to come and see Clinton. And then so they thought, well, let's not waste the ticket.
Let's not waste the ticket.
Let's pussy march anyway.
We can only afford one ticket to get to London. Since we're left wing, we don't have jobs.
This is Washington.
We've got permission. We've got permission.
So they had these posters, right? My vagina is made of steel. So I went on the radio and I said, okay, your vagina's made of steel. Well, my vagina can fit a 24-ounce can of Coors sideways, right? Because yes. I was like, I've had babies. I'm like a real woman. My vagina is massive. It's got its own echo. Like many men have lost themselves up there.
We can move
you
on.
like the detail. You like my vaginal detail. I know that you do.
No.
But you're pretending to be gay. I know that you find it hot.
Oh, God.
Anywho, Ofcom took that down word for word.
Yeah.
And then my small, white, middle-aged manager sat opposite me saying, we've got an Ofcom complaint. And I will now read you the transcript. My vagina can fit a 24-ounce can of Coors. She's like this. Sideways. But he didn't get the, punctuation.
No. He didn't.
So I corrected him on the punctuation, at which point I was told I was not funny. And the punctuation was not important. There's an Ofcom warning about my vagina, which is sort of one of my best days in radio, to be honest.
You see, this is alien to Americans because they're used to being used to having their sort of a chilling effect, an intimidatory sort of effect from left-wing media saying, oh, this person is low rent and crass, not worthy of airtime. This is what I get on college campuses. Isn't the sort of person that should be speaking to students.
No, we need somebody, more deserving.
To which my response is, these kids pay 60 grand to be indoctrinated in Marxism. I think they can pick for themselves, because you're not teaching them.
And they want you there.
And they want me there. They want me there.
This is the frustration. They want you there.
But this is amazing. I mean, I keep coming back to this as sort of
the focus. The British thing is that there is law behind this.
The interview really is this astonishing.
The establishment behind this, the law, the police that come to my door, Ofcom, and the regulatory bodies that come to my door. Everybody threatening to lock me up for sweaty socks or Ebolas or sealed vaginas
or cockroaches
or hungry Ramadams. Ramadan ding dong. Yeah, I know. Funny days.
It's horrible.
It's sort of horrible,
it's
but
why I left.
Is it sort of also glorious, perhaps? you know, in the age where you still do have a voice. Like, there is a little bit of me that, as much as I lament your loss, that Twitter not taking me down yet. I feel like inside Twitter there's a Milo. Now, I know they didn't look after you.
There must be a Katie Hopkins fan.
There's someone in there.
There must be a Katie fan somewhere on Twitter.
There is. Which means there may be a fabulous version of you also inside of Twitter, but we don't know them yet. Like James Damore, but
James Damore on Google. Yeah, maybe. Maybe
there's
some sort of
a human version of James.
He's adorable.
He's adorable in a cute little pocket monster way.
He
needs a translator for live.
It's not his natural thing to speak in public.
Are they all like that?
I think so.
Engineers.
I think so. Yes.
How do they get on? How do they ever get a bus?
Let's talk about. I don't think you captures buses.
No.
I don't know anybody who
teleport?
does. Maybe. I want to talk to you about the changing face of London briefly. Now, lots of right-wing commentators in this country like to write fairly hysterical pieces about this.
Yeah.
Gavin McInnes, mutual friend of ours, went over there recently, and he said, "I don't see the big deal. I mean, they were not really that bad." I, on the other hand, on my last visit, went to Whitechapel and Knightsbridge. Whitechapel because that's where roughly where I used to live. Knightsbridge, of course, for shopping. And in both,
because that's my home.
Because that's where I go. Both areas, of course, are the zenith, the apex of Burkerdom, of Londonistan.
Yes.
You actually do spend more time in London and have done for years.
About 4 days a week.
Yeah. What's your impression of the changing face of the city, if there is one?
Yeah.
Is it all a bit overblown?
No.
Because I don't go back very often anymore, so I'm always asking people, is it just, is it like Tehran now?
Yes.
Because I'm so like, I don't want to go. I don't go to France anymore because I'm worried about that I can't make myself understood because I don't speak Arabic. But is London this bad yet?
You're not Somali. The Eritreans will get you.
No, I'm not Somalian and I don't speak Arabic. So how can
the Afghans will hate you.
There's no point going to Paris.
I just cannot fit into Paris because I'm not Afghani.
Because I'm not Afghani or Somalian.
I'm going to dress Eritrean and I will fit right in. So, London, is it as bad as I say? Yes, it is. And people say, how dare that woman go on American TV and talk us down? She doesn't love her country. I bloody love my country.
Well, that's obvious.
Yeah,
that's obvious.
yeah.
I hate it when people say that. It's like, those, because you can be outspoken in defense of your country, whether it's Trump or Boris or you or me or any of these figures, it's clear. The one thing you cannot be accused of, and you can be accused of many things.
Many things, darling.
The one thing you cannot be accused of is a lack of patriotism.
No, of course. I love my country.
You're the most British person I've ever met.
Am I?
Yeah, you are.
Hurrah!
See?
Understand.
Nobody does that.
Has fallen.
Yeah.
It has. And I really believe, having been there, right there, just after the Westminster Bridge attack, where, a Muslim in a truck just tore down people on those pavements. And then London Bridge, where guys with hunting knives went into restaurants where girls and women were eating and just stabbed them in the head. That place is falling. When I hear a moped now, and the reason I say it is because the fear now, it's you feel it. So when I hear a moped now in certain parts of London, I will move into the inside of the curb and spot the moped because acid attacks come off the back of mopeds. People just chuck the acid. And when I cross roads, if I have my children up in town, we cross the road and I tell them let's just say there's a lamp post. What's an American translation for lamp post?
The street
light. If there's a street light, I tell my children to stand next to the street light when we cross the road so that they're next to the metal. And that's a weird conversation to have with 12 and 11-year-olds in a capital city.
Who've grown up in the British countryside where this doesn't even occur to them.
Yes, and I'm
They've
just
never had to think about this stuff.
I'm just tooling them up so that if a truck is going to smash into you...
Teddy bears, the Queen, Buckingham Palace, then when they actually they confront the reality of living in London.
Yes,
you have to warn them about these horrendous things.
I'm not scaring them. Because I'm not
you're
saying
preparing
a truck
them for
might
life.
smash into you. I'm saying if you're crossing the road, stand next to the metal street lamp so that if a truck, and I don't add this bit, but if a truck smashes into my kids, it will hit the metal lamp post first. And
that was the only good thing about Islam, wasn't it? No female drivers, and now the Saudis have fucked that up too.
So I do think it's genuinely scary. And when you look at the stats, so we're now the rape capital. We have more rapes in London than we do in New York. Acid attacks. We have more acid attacks in East London than in Islamabad. Things have got pretty dark, and I blame that absolutely fairly and squarely on the shoulders, small shoulders that they are, of our pocket-sized Muslim mayor, Sadiq Khan. He's repulsive.
Right.
He's
and I noticed that Sadiq Khan, who is perfectly happy to speak to segregated crowds and all the rest of it when he visits Muslim areas,
has Hamas
has been
parading through London.
Beautifying the city recently with concrete blocks and bollards. I mean, the place looks like it is permanently on high alert.
Yeah.
Because it is.
Because it is. And
because it is.
The walls we have on our bridges now, you know, they're
I've seen the picture. I mean, I haven't seen them in person
It's
because
odd.
I haven't been back for a
It's
while.
odd.
Because
something you said today so you did a talk today. Something you said. So there was a picture of Sadiq Kant the other day, and he said, "This feminist in City Hall." You had an expression today about male feminists. You were like,
when a man describes himself as a male feminist, you can start the clock on the rape charge.
Yes, right.
It's absolutely
That
true.
quote.
100% true. Look at Hollywood. Look at liberal journalists. All of these preening, virtue signaling, finger wagging.
I am a male feminist.
Oh no, excuse me. I'm a feminist ally. They don't
Yes.
They don't even say male feminist.
No.
They say I'm a feminist ally.
Yes.
And surprise, surprise, no one saw this coming. Actually, aggressive public displays of virtue are where the morally deplorable hide. And every single one of them ends up being a diddler or a rapist or a or one of these. No sex, by the way, in these left-wing sex scandals. It's all just fiddling with yourself, and
you make it look very small when
potted,
you do that.
It's all. It's all
a very small penis.
It's all auto diddling and potted plants.
Auto diddling and potted plant.
No, this is what liberal sex scandals boil down to. At least if it was a Republican, it'd be a proper rape. But no, and then you would know, and you'd be like, "This is a bastard. Give him the electric chair for doing that to a woman." But the liberal stuff, it's over this.
God, this is not a good.
A little bit of sand comes out, like it just, and then the abuse, the abuse of the flora, hotel lobby palm trees,
auto diddling,
and this, the poor restaurant bonsai,
takes a shafting.
It takes not even just a light drizzling, just
a light brushing,
just a drizzle, just
a mere froth,
a bit of light spotting. Because Harvey Weinstein took a liking to a waitress.
A bisque. A mere bisque. A lobster bisque. En passant.
Speaking of lobster, by the way.
Yes, darling.
My favourite...
That was a segue we never expected.
We never expected.
You couldn't write that.
But it's great. Speaking about
welfare
dependency and
with
lobsters,
auto-diddling wanking.
My favourite story from the US of the last month is the woman who's buying her dog lobster tails with her food stamps.
What?
It's like, what would you call it in
What's she
England?
doing?
What is food
Utter bastard?
Oh
no, not the lady.
What are food stamps?
Food stamps.
Called?
Oh, like welfare, like food banks. We have we get welfare checks.
It's not food banks. It's the government stuff. It's your weekly welfare, whatever. And
so for us, it'd be universal credit.
Universal credit. So in America, you get food stamps. So you get like EBT or whatever, and you can only spend it in certain places.
Which
like
is better.
You see, food shop, in food stores, and on cosmetics and stuff like that.
But she's spending it on lobster.
On lobster tails for her dog. Yeah, no, absolutely. I love her. I think she's great.
I sort of am drawn to her too.
There's a sort of, whenever you open a copy of the Daily Mail, which is, I suppose, the closest thing we have over here is maybe the Inquirer, but not really.
Not really.
Maybe the New York Post. You open a copy of the Daily Mail every couple of days, and there's this woman who is sort of brazenly staring down the camera with her 18 state-funded children.
You can't go wrong.
Her red-eyed brood.
Well, it's actually...
and there's no dad in the picture. It's just her and her vast and her benefits mansion. They're always huge, and they're having sex with whoever they can as a self-esteem device, and they're collecting these, and by and large, normally, they're in the paper with 18 fatherless children in their gigantic mansion on the outskirts of some terrible northern town.
Paid for.
That everyone else paid for, complaining about a benefits cap and saying that because they only get $2,000 a month, they can no longer feed their children.
It's basically, if it's a slow news day and everyone's in conference and everyone's like,
can we do one of those?
No stories.
One of those benefit freak show stories.
There's nothing on today. I know we've got nothing. I know the paper's bare. Okay.
What about that woman in Walthamstow?
And then generally, it's either that she has got a bigger house because she has more children, or the other good kind of default option is, and I'm going to have more. So this idea she's going to carry on.
She does.
They usually have more.
It's the double down brazenness.
Oh, double down on it.
This is what I'm saying is, I admire it too.
Yeah, I'm going to pump more out.
These are the real free speech heroes.
Yeah,
the people expressing themselves and lauded for it by the left. And anyway, we've had a lovely time.
Yeah,
we didn't get onto half the stuff.
Did we do anything you wanted to talk about?
No. But I had fun.
But we did lobster bisque.
We did do lobster. auto diddling and potted plants. I'm
Auto-diddling
gonna
with
reuse.
lobster bisque.
I'm gonna
That'll
reuse.
stay with you,
Yeah, no,
babes.
it's every hour
I feel a
of
sweater.
conversation.
I feel a t-shirt coming up. Auto diddle my lobster bisque.
Auto diddle me, Harvey. That could be a child's toy. Like Tickle Me Elmo.
For liberal pedos in Hollywood.
I've got a friend who makes like comedy gifts, and he made
the perfect one.
the kiddie fiddle, which is a child's violin, and it says ages 5 and under. May contain small parts.
I think it's your impression that's.
No, is it?
Yes, our highlights.
You've got to do it with your fingertips. You've got to do it with your fingertips,
And then
like
just
this.
a bit of sand pops out. That's an important expression for me
It
now
just-
in my
it
life.
just sprung into my head.
That's new culture.
Well, I think it suggests that this person has been masturbating frequently, often for years.
Yes.
So that all there is left to come out at any given moment is just a little bit of sand.
I think that's true of guys. You know the Muslim guys that wear the big white robes down to their ankles? I reckon that's they auto-diddle.
They're all just.
Yeah, that. And the other highlight for our talk for me is the Ramadan rage eating in the night.
I know.
That's going to stay with
I
me.
no,
too.
I enjoyed it. The stuff of 1,000 internet memes. Thank you so much for joining me, Katie Hopkins. I think America has been given a glimpse at two things. One is how adorable and wonderful and hilarious you are.
What a shit Ellen DeGeneres looks like.
And the other, yes, but you look lovely. And the other is what an extraordinarily Orwellian circumstance that you are soldiering on under, and what a fucking coward I am for bailing.
Yeah, you need to get your ass back there,
You're the real hero here, because you're the one getting hauled into the police station for saying sweaty socks.
Sweaty socks.
Sweaty socks. Thank you so much, Katie Hopkins.
Thank you very much
for joining
indeed.
me.
I've got cold little hands though.
You have got cold
I
hands.
know. I'm sorry. She's like that. This is a cold hand.
Really
what do I
cold
do with
hand.
it?